When Taxi Driver emerged in 1976, it did not arrive as a portrait of a city so much as a confession whispered through neon and rain. The film does not introduce its world, it exhales it. From the first plume of steam rising from a Manhattan street, Martin Scorsese signals that this will not be a story explained by plot, but by atmosphere. New York is not a setting here. It is a state of mind, fractured and unclean, observed through the windshield of a man who cannot sleep. One of the most revealing facts about Taxi Driver is that its screenplay was written during a period of acute personal isolation. Paul Schrader conceived the story while suffering from insomnia and emotional detachment, drawing directly from his own nocturnal routines and sense of disconnection. That the diary-like narration that frames the film is not a literary device added for style. It is the structural spine of a mind circling itself. This origin matters because it explains the film's refusal to reassure. Taxi Driver does not guide the viewer, it exposes them. Travis Bickle is introduced not as a mystery to be solved, but as a presence to be endured. His voiceover is calm, deliberate, and unsettlingly sincere. He does not rant, he catalogs. That restraint is crucial. Scorsese understood that fanaticism becomes frightening when it is orderly. Travis's thoughts are not chaotic outbursts, but tidy conclusions, and that clarity gives them weight. A lesser-known detail is that Robert De Niro prepared for the role by actually driving a taxi in New York for weeks. He obtained a hack license and worked night shifts, absorbing the rhythms, conversations, and silences of the job. This immersion is visible not in technique, but in posture. The way Travis sits, waits, and watches feels habitual, not performed. The camera does not follow him learning the city. It follows him already absorbed by it. The film's visual language reinforces this absorption. Michael Chapman's cinematography often frames Travis through glass, windshields, mirrors, windows, creating layers between him and the world. These reflections are not decorative. They fragment the image, suggesting a man who sees everything twice and understands it once. The city appears smeared, distorted by rain and motion, as if reality itself were unreliable after dark. One curious production fact is that many night scenes were shot with minimal permits, using available streetlight and improvised setups. This decision was partly economic, but it produced a rawness that could not have been designed. Neon signs bleed into the lens, traffic lights flare. The city looks overstimulated and exhausted at the same time. Taxi Driver does not beautify New York's decay. It documents it as a lived experience. Bernard Herrmann's score plays a defining role, and its history adds a layer of poignancy. Taxi Driver was Herrmann's final film. He completed the recording shortly before his death. The music oscillates between a melancholic saxophone theme and bursts of dissonant brass. This duality mirrors Travis's internal split, longing for connection, simmering with hostility. The score does not instruct the viewer how to feel. It circles the emotion, never quite settling. And another revealing detail is how Scorsese directs the camera during moments of potential intimacy. When Travis attempts to connect, whether with Betsy or later with Iris, the framing becomes more rigid, the cuts more abrupt. The film visually resists closeness. Even conversations feel surveilled, as if intimacy itself were unsafe. This choice reinforces the tragedy of a man who desires purification but cannot tolerate vulnerability. The character of Betsy is often misunderstood, and the film's treatment of her is deliberately restrained. She is not an object of idealization because the film refuses to grant her interiority through Travis's gaze. Betsy exists as an image onto which Travis projects order and cleanliness. When she steps outside that projection, he does not adapt. He retreats into judgment. This is not romance gone wrong. It is ideology failing under contact with reality. A striking, often overlooked fact is that the famous campaign office scenes were filmed during an actual election season, with real volunteers and passers-by. This grounds Travis's fixation on political rhetoric in a lived civic moment. The slogans, the optimism, the performative hope contrast violently with his inner monologue. Taxi Driver quietly suggests that public language often fails to reach private despair. The film's pacing in its first movement is intentionally patient. Scorsese allows repetition to do the work. Nights blur together. Streets recur. The cab glides endlessly. This rhythm is not filler, it is diagnosis. Travis's world is not progressing, only accumulating. The city does not change him, it confirms him. One disturbing but essential fact is how the film treats violence before it ever appears. Guns are introduced not as threats but as solutions discussed calmly, almost politely. The infamous scene with the firearms dealer is filmed without urgency. The transaction is mundane. This normalization is far more unsettling than spectacle. Taxi Driver understands that danger often announces itself as practicality. The diary entries that structure the narrative were written to sound morally certain rather than emotionally volatile. Schrader intentionally avoided poetic language. Travis's words are blunt, repetitive, and declarative. He does not ask questions, he issues verdicts. This matters because it reveals how alienation can harden into philosophy when left unchallenged. And a technical detail that deepens this effect is Scorsese's use of slow camera moves during voiceover. The camera glides as Travis speaks, creating a sense of inevitability. The city seems to comply with his narration, as if his thoughts were already shaping the world. This subtle alignment between movement and monologue blurs the line between observation and control. Travis's relationship with other cab drivers offers brief moments of social contact, but even these are filmed at a remove. Conversations trail off. Jokes land without laughter. The diner scenes are brightly lit yet emotionally cold. Taxi Driver suggests that proximity does not guarantee connection. One can sit among people and remain untouched. A little-known fact is that the script originally placed greater emphasis on Travis's military background, but Scorsese chose to minimize explicit references. This decision avoids easy explanations. The film does not diagnose Travis, it observes him. By refusing to anchor his behavior to a single cause, Taxi Driver becomes more unsettling and more universal. The city's moral ambiguity is central to this first act. Scorsese does not present corruption as hidden. It is visible, tolerated, ambient. Travis's obsession with cleansing arises not from discovery but from saturation. He is not shocked by what he sees. He is offended by its persistence. The first movement of Taxi Driver establishes its thesis quietly but firmly. Isolation does not erupt overnight. It sedimentates, it builds through routine, through nights without sleep, through words repeated until they harden. Travis does not descend into darkness. He organizes himself within it. By the end of this opening act, the film has not yet promised violence, redemption, or collapse. It has done something more unsettling. It has invited the viewer inside a consciousness that feels coherent to itself. And that coherence, maintained with calm precision, becomes the most dangerous element of all. This is how Taxi Driver begins. Not with action, but with observation. Not with chaos, but with order imposed on decay. A man driving through the city, writing to himself, waiting for something undefined to justify his certainty. The engine hums, the streets glow, and the night stretches on. The journey has started long before the destination is named. As Taxi Driver moves into its second movement, the film tightens its focus not by accelerating events, but by narrowing Travis Bickle's internal logic. What was once observation begins to calcify into judgment. The city no longer merely appears corrupt, it demands correction. Scorsese does not mark this shift with a dramatic turn. He allows it to emerge quietly through routine, repetition, and the gradual hardening of language. One of the most revealing facts about this middle section is how Travis's diary changes in tone without changing in style. The sentences remain short, declarative, and calm, but their conclusions become more absolute. He stops describing what he sees and begins defining what it means. This transition matters because it shows how extremity can develop without emotional escalation. Travis does not lose control, yet he gains certainty. A little-known production detail is that Paul Schrader structured the script to resemble a moral essay rather than a traditional character arc. Each scene tests an idea Travis already holds, and each test confirms it. The film does not introduce counter-arguments. Betsy does not challenge him intellectually. His fellow drivers do not confront him. The absence of resistance allows his beliefs to echo unchecked, growing louder through repetition alone. The failed relationship with Betsy is pivotal precisely because it is so mundane. There is no betrayal, no dramatic rejection. Travis simply misreads the situation, then withdraws into resentment. Scorsese films the aftermath without sentimentality. Travis does not grieve, he reorganizes. The rejection becomes proof, not pain. This is crucial. Taxi Driver portrays emotional disappointment not as a wound, but as evidence to be filed. An unsettling detail is how the film treats Travis's humiliation. The infamous date scene is filmed with an almost documentary detachment. The camera does not rush to judge him, it stays with the awkwardness. The discomfort is allowed to linger, implicating the viewer in the silence. This restraint makes the moment more disturbing than overt condemnation would have. Following this rupture, Travis's isolation intensifies, but the film resists portraying it as loneliness. He is not shown yearning for connection. Instead, he becomes busier. He works longer hours, writes more, exercises obsessively. Scorsese presents activity as a substitute for intimacy. The danger is not withdrawal, but self-sufficiency hardened into ideology. One of the strangest and most telling facts about this section is how humor appears briefly, then vanishes. Travis attempts jokes with other cabbies, mimics television commercials, practices conversations in the mirror. These moments are not comic relief. They are rehearsals for normalcy that never quite succeed. The laughter is hollow, and when it fades, it does not return. The mirror scene, often quoted and misunderstood, is not a declaration of power, but an experiment in presence. Travis is not threatening an imagined enemy. He is testing whether he exists when observed. Scorsese frames the scene as a rehearsal for recognition. The question is not, who am I talking to, but is anyone there? The menace emerges from the absence of an answer. A subtle technical choice reinforces this idea. The lighting in Travis's apartment grows harsher as the film progresses. Shadows sharpen, colors flatten. The space feels smaller, more controlled. Taxi Driver uses environment to reflect mental compression. As Travis's worldview narrows, so does the visual field. The introduction of weapons in this section is deliberately procedural. The purchase is filmed like a routine errand. The seller's casual demeanor normalizes the transaction. Scorsese avoids dramatization, understanding that spectacle would misrepresent the real threat. Violence does not enter as an explosion, it arrives as preparation. A disturbing but crucial detail is how Travis frames this preparation as self-improvement. He trains, diets, practices. The film mirrors the language of discipline and fitness common to self-help culture, then empties it of context. The problem is not that Travis seeks structure, it is that structure replaces empathy. Taxi Driver suggests that discipline without connection can become ruthless. The city's role shifts in this movement. Earlier, New York overwhelmed Travis with excess. Now it recedes into abstraction. Streets become routes, faces become types, encounters become data points. The camera reflects this change by lingering less on crowds and more on Travis alone in motion. The city is no longer a subject, it is a justification. A little-known fact is that Scorsese intentionally reduced ambient sound in several scenes during this act, allowing the score or silence to dominate. This sonic thinning creates a sense of detachment. The city feels farther away, even when it is visually present. Travis is no longer immersed, he is insulated. The character of Iris enters the film as a moral catalyst, but the film is careful not to romanticize the interaction. Travis does not understand Iris. He categorizes her. He frames her situation as a problem to be solved rather than a person to be known. This distinction is vital. His impulse to save is rooted in control, not compassion. A revealing script detail is that Travis's dialogue with Iris is oddly formal, almost instructional. He speaks to her as if delivering a lesson, not offering help. The language mirrors his diary entries. Declarative, certain, stripped of curiosity. Taxi Driver exposes how moral certainty can masquerade as concern. Throughout this section, Scorsese resists giving the audience psychological relief. There is no explanatory montage, no moment of self-awareness. Travis never doubts his conclusions. This refusal is intentional. The film does not seek to comfort the viewer with insight. It asks them to sit with process. The second movement culminates not in action, but in decision. Travis selects targets, routines, and purposes. The film treats this selection with chilling calm. There is no dramatic music cue, no editorial emphasis. Choice arrives as logistics. Taxi Driver understands that the most frightening decisions often feel practical to the person making them. By the end of this act, the transformation is complete, though nothing explosive has occurred. Travis has not snapped. He has aligned. His inner narrative now matches his outer preparations. Here, the city no longer challenges him. It confirms him. The danger lies in that harmony. This is the quiet heart of Taxi Driver, the point at which alienation stops being a condition and becomes a mission. Scorsese does not announce this shift. He lets it settle, scene by scene, word by word, until it feels inevitable. As the film approaches its final movement, the audience understands something unsettling. Whatever comes next will not be an interruption of Travis's world. It will be its logical conclusion. The night has not changed. Travis has. As Taxi Driver enters its final movement, the film does not shift gears so much as remove the last restraints. What has been methodical now becomes irreversible. Scorsese refuses the language of climax. There is no swelling anticipation, no promise of catharsis. The narrative advances with the cold efficiency of a plan already accepted by its author. Travis Bickle is no longer searching for meaning. He has assigned it. One of the most unsettling facts about this final act is how little emotional volatility it contains. Travis does not appear enraged or panicked. He is focused. His preparations are complete, his routines fixed. The film understands that the most dangerous phase is not agitation, but calm. Violence here is not an eruption, it is a scheduled outcome. A revealing detail is how the film visually cleanses Travis just before the end. His apartment is tidied, his body disciplined, his hair cut into an unmistakable shape. This transformation is not presented as madness, but as order. Scorsese frames it almost ritualistically. Travis is not becoming someone else. He is finalizing himself. The danger lies in how coherent this process appears to him. The failed assassination attempt marks a crucial but often misunderstood turning point. The scene is brief, almost anticlimactic. Travis is thwarted not by moral awakening but by circumstance. He does not reconsider. He redirects. The film makes a precise point here. Intention survives failure. Taxi Driver refuses the comforting notion that near misses dissolve conviction. A little-known fact is that Scorsese deliberately underplayed this sequence to avoid glamorization. There is no dramatic chase, no heroic resistance. The attempt dissolves into confusion and retreat. This restraint denies the act any grandeur. Travis is not framed as tragic or bold, only displaced. What follows is the film's most controversial section, and its handling is carefully calibrated. The violence in the final confrontation is abrupt, chaotic, and deeply unpleasant. Scorsese does not aestheticize it. The camera lingers not to excite, but to exhaust. The sequence is edited to disorient rather than thrill. The viewer is not invited to enjoy, they are forced to endure. An important technical detail is that the color grading of the final scenes was intentionally altered to reduce saturation. The blood appears darker, less vivid. This choice distances the violence from spectacle. It reads as damage, not display. Scorsese understood that visual excess would undermine the film's moral ambiguity. Travis's physical collapse during the climax is significant. He does not move like an action hero. He stumbles, bleeds, and slows. The body resists the narrative of invincibility. Taxi Driver insists on consequence. Violence does not clarify Travis's purpose, it consumes it. One of the most chilling moments occurs after the violence has ended, when Travis mimics a gun with his fingers against his head. This gesture is not triumphant, it is empty, a signal without audience. Scorsese leaves the meaning unresolved. Is it irony, exhaustion, or reflex? The film refuses to decide, and that refusal is central to its power. A disturbing but essential fact is how the aftermath is framed. The media response reframes Travis's actions as heroic. Newspapers, letters, public approval, all arrive after the fact without his participation. The film does not celebrate this reversal, it presents it as an indictment of narrative hunger. Society rushes to impose meaning where none was intended. This recontextualization is one of Taxi Driver's most prescient observations. The film suggests that public narratives often sanitize violence by assigning it purpose. Travis is no more healed by this attention than he was before. The praise does not change him, it passes over him. Scorsese keeps Travis silent during this process, denying him the satisfaction of explanation. A lesser-known detail is that the final scenes were edited to feel slightly unreal, almost suspended. And the pacing changes, the score softens, the camera glides. Some viewers have interpreted this as fantasy, others as numbness. Scorsese never clarified the intention, and that ambiguity is deliberate. The film resists closure because closure would imply resolution. The return to routine at the end mirrors the beginning, but with a critical difference. Travis is still driving, still observing, but the tension has shifted. The city appears calmer, but his gaze remains alert. The mirror catches his eyes briefly, sharply. It is a moment that suggests not peace, but vigilance. Whatever was released has not disappeared. An important thematic detail is that Taxi Driver does not offer redemption. There is no lesson learned, no repentance articulated. The film ends with continuity, not transformation. This choice separates it from moral parables. Scorsese does not instruct the audience how to judge Travis. He presents the conditions and allows discomfort to remain. The final use of Bernard Herrmann's music underscores this unresolved state. The saxophone theme returns, but altered, subdued. It feels less like longing and more like residue. Herrmann's score does not conclude. It trails off, echoing the film's refusal to finalize meaning. A significant production fact is that Scorsese fought to keep the ending ambiguous, despite pressure to clarify Travis's psychological state. He understood that certainty would flatten the film's impact. Taxi Driver endures precisely because it denies easy interpretation. In its closing moments, the film offers no commentary, only observation. Travis drives. The city passes. Life continues. The absence of judgment is not neutrality. It is challenge. The viewer is left to reconcile the gap between action and recognition, between intent and narrative. Taxi Driver ends where it began, inside a moving vehicle, inside a solitary consciousness, but the journey has exposed something essential. Alienation, once structured, does not dissolve. It waits. It adapts. It finds language in action when language fails. The film's lasting power lies in this final insistence. Taxi Driver does not warn against madness. It examines coherence without compassion. It shows how clarity can be more dangerous than chaos, how conviction can outpace conscience. There is no moral seal at the end of Taxi Driver. No reassurance that the night has passed. The city still breathes, the cab still moves. And behind the wheel sits a man who has been seen, briefly and then returned to anonymity. That is the film's final, unsettling truth. Not that violence resolves alienation, but that society is often eager to misunderstand it. Taxi Driver closes not with an answer, but with a mirror held up, briefly, silently, before the eyes look away and the night continues.